Welcome to Third Eyesight. I'm your host, Juan Francisco, and I'm a spiritual intuitive who practices tarot card reading and mediumship. I've always been super curious about the supernatural and paranormal, and I'm here to share my stories and interview folks who want to share their own stories. Let's get to it. So before we start our episode today, I have a little announcement. June 20th, June 27th, and July 4th, there will not be any Third Eyesight podcast episodes, so there'll be a 3-week hiatus for the podcast. I am going to take some time off. It's going to be my summer time off, and I honestly will not have time during that time off to record episodes because I really want to try and focus on my, you guessed it, time off. I did something similar during the holidays. I feel like moments where I really want to be unplugged for a bit, not working too hard on some projects, giving myself a break, are times when I do want to step away from either social media and or the podcast to really help myself reset. And I think for this upcoming time off, I think will be especially important for me to do that so that I stay present in the moment of what I will be focusing on during those 2 or 3 weeks. And secondly, I just want to mention, if you want to follow me on social media, I do intend to continue posting on social media during that time off. I just won't have the same amount of bandwidth that I usually do to record episodes, but I will be posting on social media. And as I've mentioned before, you can find me at Juan Third Eye on Instagram, on Twitter, and by the name Juan Francisco on Facebook. So follow me on all the social stuff. If you want to keep up with me, and feel free to DM me if you have any questions or any suggestions for topics you want to hear about on the podcast. Okay, so based on the title, you probably know what this podcast episode is about. In true Gemini fashion, I don't like the attention on myself, but I also like to celebrate myself. It's like we praise ourselves and we doo-doo on ourselves at the same time. It's like, it's okay, no, don't listen to me, but also like, hear me out. It's such a Gemini thing. I am the truest Gemini on the planet, probably, by the book Gemini. So yes, and to be honest, right now I'm recording this episode 1 week in advance, so I am not yet 30 years old. But by the time this episode is published, and by the time you're listening to it, I will have turned 30 already. It's kind of weird because I talk about like manifestation or like thinking myself into a circumstance. I'm literally speaking to you as if I am already 30 years old. And that's so bizarre. So this podcast episode will be very reflective and will really be me just expressing myself about what it feels like to enter a new decade of my life and to struggle with some fears and insecurities that I have. So I'm going to be as open as I feel comfortable being open in this episode. And I would love to hear your feedback on whatever it is that I share here. If you resonate with it, if you disagree with it, I am a DM on social media away. So what has happened in the last year for me between the age, or rather the turning age 29 and turning age 30? I definitely learned that I have an ability and a gift. As you all know, listening to this podcast, especially if you go back to episode number 1, I started this podcast in October of 2021. In September of 2021, the month before, I realized, or I didn't realize it yet, but I had an experience of connecting with a departed loved one for a friend of mine, and it happened very it was a surprise. I did not ask for it. I didn't expect it. It was out of nowhere. And then that led me to join a mediumship circle that I don't think I've missed a single mediumship circle, which is weekly, except for maybe 2 or 3 times because of the holidays, or I was out of town, or I had a commitment. I treat it like a it's a weekly commitment. I don't ever want to miss it. And it has been such a huge addition to my life. And between that, developing my mediumship abilities through Circle, through practice with friends, practice with some of you who are listening, who have booked a reading with me and to disclaim, mediumship readings with me are pay as you wish because I am not yet ready to put myself out there as a medium. As a tarot reader, that's one thing, and maybe I'll infuse mediumship into my tarot card readings. But standalone mediumship readings are something that I am still exploring, and more to come on that in the future, I bet. And between doing that, between mediumship development and reading tarot cards and revamping, redoing my whole social media branding, because before Third Eyesight, my social media was all about just me, my life and me and cute pictures and Instagram stories of me, I don't know, dancing around, which I will still do, but it was way more of that. And now my social media is purely focused on matters of the podcast, spirituality, the supernatural, the paranormal. Of course, I post about the podcast and new episodes that go up. I post about the books that I'm reading that I really feel connect to my spiritual journey. And it's so much fun. And let me tell you, organizing your social media feed and planning content and creating content, it is an effort. It takes time, and I have really learned that. And I'm trying each week to set time aside for myself to plan and come up with new ideas for social media content to keep you folks engaged, to keep me engaged with my own project of this podcast and my own project of being an intuitive worker and reader. And it's a lot. It takes time. So for those of you who may not be aware, it takes time, and it's a good reminder for us to really appreciate people who believe in what they do on social media and take the time to post content consistently, because it is quite an effort. And what else has happened? Let's do this. So first, I just delved into spiritual work, and I'm gonna go now into career. Let's go into dating life, love life. Let's do that. Let's be vulnerable. I'm gonna be vulnerable with you, and maybe you'll relate to something, and it'll help you understand something more about yourself. So let's do it. So work-wise, to be very honest, the podcast, being a reader, that's not my 9 to 5. It's not my full-time work. I just started putting myself out there as a tarot card reader back in November, I believe, or December of 2021. So I don't get a lot of readings booked. I don't. I don't. And that's okay because I feel comfortable with the day job that I have. It sustains me, it supports my life, and I do like my day job. And I feel like my day job is or comes with it a lifestyle that permits me to devote time to the things that I really love to do, like music, which is something I really want to get back into more and more. I keep saying that to myself, and I intend to do it, and I want to do it, as well as the podcast and doing readings when they come up and doing mediumship development and taking courses on on Udemy. This is not a sponsored ad. On Udemy. I have time to do these other things that I love to do in addition to the job that I have 9 to 5 that I do enjoy, that I like, and that is on its own level fulfilling in a way too. But for me, the things I do outside of my 9 to 5 are things that just they bring me back to when I was a child and I had an excitement for certain things that I wanted to do and certain interests like in the supernatural, and it's just so much fun. So work wise, that's how things are going or have been going in the past year. And love life. Ooh, I never really talk about my love life, but let's talk about it. So I'm a gay man. Shocker. Shocking. I'm a gay man living in New York City, and I noticed that the more I have delved into this spiritual journey, or the more I become more aware of my spiritual journey, because you never can leave a spiritual journey. We are souls, we are spirit, all of us. So we can't exit the journey, we are always in it. So I'll rephrase what I said and say instead that the more I'm more cautiously aware that I am on a spiritual journey, the more the shadow parts of me show up as I navigate my love and dating life. Dating, sex, love, and dating, that conglomeration of things is this, I'm going to put that all in one department. I feel like that department of life can be it can be the most challenging thing that we could experience, that department of things, that can really show us who we really are and what we have to work on to evolve as people. I feel like we can have different struggles in life that can come our way, whether, someone who's difficult at work, maybe family you feel like you don't get along with. But when it comes to being emotionally, physically, mentally intimate with another person that you call your partner, or for those of you who are polyamorous, your partners, it really challenges you. It almost like unveils everything about you that you want to keep hidden. And so I think for me, as someone who, and I've mentioned this before, I struggle with insecurities. I struggle with hiding parts of myself that I don't want someone to know about, because if they know about it, then they're not going to want to relate with me, relate with me in a relationship. I feel that unveiling. It's like almost like a forced unveiling. Of course, it's up to me. I could decide to run away from that if I want to. And I have. I have to be honest, I have. And so in the last year, as I become more consciously aware of this spiritual journey I'm on, the more I am also consciously aware of thought patterns, beliefs, and behaviors in my love and dating life that do not coincide with the spiritual journey I'm meant to be on. And when I have that realization, it feels tough. It is so tough because I feel like there's this inner conflict of, well, but I want to do this, and I want to, I want to believe that about myself and how I relate to other people in the dating pool, and then my spiritual, I feel like my spirit guides and my soul's like, no, that's not the case. You cannot think that way, because if you do, and you can if you want to, but don't be surprised if you don't feel too nice about it, don't like the result. And I will hear it, I'll feel it rather, and then I'll make that decision anyways. And then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And there are beliefs that I am holding tight to, that I don't want to let go of because I just so believe them, and they are some self-deprecating beliefs about myself in regards to how I want to relate to another person romantically or on dates. And, work in progress. And that brings me to another point. Just because I say I'm a medium and a tarot card reader doesn't mean I have all my shit together. And we should not expect anybody who says they're psychic and can do a reading for you to be a perfect person. There's this myth out there that if you are a psychic worker, intuitive worker, medium, whatever you want to, whatever it is that you most relate to, the kind of people that you seek out for readings, that if you claim you are that, then you must be this person who often goes to a mountaintop and prays to the gods above, and you are always tuned in, and you know exactly the right things to do in every situation. And no, there's no such thing. I think we do become that when we die, because we are then united with, or more closely aware of, the unity that already exists between us and spirit and source and the other side. But while we're in these human bodies, we are definitely not perfect. And I would feel so inauthentic if I were portraying myself as this person on social media who just is always peaceful, always blissful, always with serenity and calm, and telling everyone how you can be calm all the time. And you can have a perfect life if you do these things. I maybe one day I'll be spreading that message when I feel like I've figured something out, but it wouldn't mean that I figured everything out. That's the difference. And I am not judging or trashing or throwing shade to anyone who portrays themselves like that on social media. I believe there are people who spread these kinds of messages who truly are happy people. I aspire to that. But I think even those folks, if they are truly being real with you and real with us, because I am just as much a consumer of these things as you are who are listening, they would acknowledge that, Yeah, I have a lot of things in my life figured out, but there's some things I don't have figured out. There's some things I still get angry about, some things that still trigger me, some things that still make me feel sad. There are still memories I have that I'm trying to work through. That's being human. And so, in regards to, look where dating took us. In regards to my dating life, like that's one part of my life that I feel I'm still working through. I'm still working through to, to see myself as somebody who is worth committing to. And that's a lot for me to admit. But you know what? I don't care. Because there really is no shame in admitting that. And I think a lot more people feel that way about themselves in the dating pool than we would care to admit or that we would ever think. And I have this fear admitting that oh, if people know this about me, will they think of me less? Will they not want to book a reading with me? Will they not want to listen to the podcast anymore? Or will they see me as a weak person? uh, and again, those are fears, not facts. Maybe there's one person listening now who's like, okay, I thought Juan was this really smart, really wise, really white light, blah 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 blah. And here, look, what's this negativity he's spewing that he thinks sometimes he doesn't feel worthy of X, Y, Z. You are entitled to your opinion. That's totally fine. But I'm gonna be real. And just because I struggle with something regarding self-worth or my ability to show up to things doesn't mean that I am any less of an intuitive. And the fact of the matter is, you who may feel that way, who may feel like you feel a little disappointed in what I'm saying, you're also intuitive. And so if you who are intuitive are looking up to somebody who says they're intuitive and offers readings for service, and you create this distance between yourself and that person that, okay, because they offer services and publicly claim that they are an intuitive worker, they, therefore, are way more wise than I am and are way much more, are way closer to contact with the white light and the other side than I am. If you create that distance between yourself and that person, I personally believe that's indication that you are making yourself you are literally making yourself inferior, and you consider yourself less able to do the things that I or anybody who claims to do this work publicly, what we do. And the one thing I want people to know by following me on social media, by listening to my podcast, is there's nothing that I am doing or the next psychic worker or intuitive person is doing that you can't do. It may appear differently. It may come up differently for you. I believe we all have intuition, as I said, and as Catherine Allen, the author, shared in our podcast episode last week. We all are intuitive. For some people, they hear things. Some people, they see things in their mind. Some people, they see spirit. They see souls appearing in front of them. For other people, they use runes. For others, they use tarot cards. For some, tea leaves. The options are endless. The ability is universal. The gifts are limitless. So my gift, I feel I have a gift for reading tarot cards, and I have a gift for mediumship. And neither one of these two gifts always come out perfectly. I'm a singer. And I do believe I have a decent singing voice. I'll admit that. I'll shamelessly admit that. I believe I have a decent singing voice. I am no Adele. I am no Sam Smith. But I think I'm decent. But there have been times where my voice is cracked during a performance. And that it was past puberty stage. There have been times where I have made a mistake in a song, or I have sung a note the wrong way, or I was a little flat when I sang a note. Doesn't mean it's any less of a gift to sing. Same thing with intuition. Same thing with the gifts that you have, whether singular gift or plural gifts. Each one of us has that gift. So why distance ourselves from people who just happen to have a TV show and be psychics, or who happen to have a huge social media following and be psychics. There's really no difference between any of us and how we can each tap into our intuition. So by me or the next person who claims to be psychic on a public platform, by us admitting anything that we struggle with on a personal level, it doesn't mean that we are any less tapped into our gifts when we do tap into them. Know what I mean? That was a whole lot of stuff. But let's see, we covered spiritual journey in the last year, work, love life. What else? What else? What else? I'll just provide these last few reflections and then I'll circle back 360 to spiritual journey, because all of this, even though I talked about my spiritual journey and how it's been the last year, as a first department of things, really every single thing that I'm mentioning in this podcast, it's all spiritual. So spirituality is not something to compartmentalize away from other parts of life. So that's why I'm going to circle back to that at the end of this, which will be in just a moment. Some other things I'm just so grateful for in the last year, I have my dog Sella, whom I adopted back in 2017 when she was 11 months old. This year she's turning 6 years old, and oh, she's my baby, and I love my baby so much. And I'm sure you do too when you see pictures of her on my story. Oh, I love her. I'm tearing up. It's ridiculous. I'm such a dog dad. Such a dog dad. I am living in my third residence in New York City. In my first one, I had 3 roommates. My second one, I had a very small 1-bedroom apartment, pretty far from the center of the city, which in itself was not a problem. And I actually really loved the building I was in. It was a historical building, and it was older. It wasn't taken care of as well, but I could afford it. And now I'm in my third residence, and I'm in a studio. As some of you could probably tell my Instagram stories, that I have a studio that I live in. And I am in a location I'm pleased with. I feel like I'm happy where I am, and it's insane that 5 years ago I had 3 roommates, and now I'm living by myself, and I've lived by myself for the last 3 years, 4 years, but I'm living by myself in a place where I feel really, really pleased and really satisfied with my circumstance. And that's so much to be grateful for. And especially in New York City, I don't take anything for granted. When I had my first place in New York City, I had 3 roommates. I was a little shocked to hear before 2 weeks before our lease was coming to an end, I was planning to resign and to continue staying in that location. And all my 3 other roommates said they were leaving. So I had 2 weeks to find a new place. And I really was concerned about not having a place to live at all, and with a dog. And I remember, I think it was a month before, or a couple months before that occurred, I was walking in that neighborhood, and I saw a young man around my age. He looked like he was around my age, with his dog sitting on the sidewalk. And based on the things that were piled around him, I could tell that he was homeless and or recently homeless. And when I saw that, I just immediately thought, wow, that could be me and Sella anytime. Anytime. It could happen to any of us. And it reminded me how grateful I need to feel. And that moment when my other roommates told me they were all leaving, I think, at least I'm thinking about this now, but I'm pretty sure at that time my mind was going back to that memory of seeing that young man with his dog. And it was concerning. And luckily I did find a place. It was that little 1-bedroom apartment, was there for 2 years through the pandemic. And then now I was with my parents for 6 months because I left that spot because finding a job or the job thing was just not working out for me. And then I found this current job I'm in, which is mostly virtual. And I have a lot to be grateful for. And there are privileges. I've learned in the last year that there are privileges I have that I need to be mindful of and need to constantly be grateful for. And I think as I'm turning 30, do I have everything I want? No. And I don't think, I don't know. I'm sure there are people out there who feel like they have everything they want and are content and need for nothing more and want nothing more. But I do have this tendency to believe that we never truly have every single thing we want, ever. But that's just an opinion, and I know that opinion will change the more that I pursue the things that I do want. So, do I have everything that I want? No, I don't. But I am damn well happy. Am I happy all the time? No. It's not possible to be happy 100% of the time. Things will come up. You'll get that phone call. You get that text message. You see that news article. You have that memory resurface. Someone says something unkind to you, and you feel what you feel, and you have to feel what you feel. It's so important. And I was just, for me, taking care of my mental health is one of my main priorities. And I do have certain resources that I use to deal with that. And I am the first to admit that I am not 100% happy all the time. But who is? Who is happy all the time? It's impossible. It's impossible. Even the quote unquote happiest people I know will have a bad day. Normal. It's normal. But I know that I can feel proud in the fact that I'm doing what I can to take care of myself by tapping into those resources I have to take care of my brain. And I think I'm going to say it right now. On my website, actually forget my website. I'm going to actually click through and find this resource right now for anybody, and you're going to hear me typing, for anybody who struggles with their mental health or struggles with really thoughts that you feel might be really dark. Here's the number for the National Suicide Lifeline for the United States, and I'll provide a website for international in just a second. And I've shared this before. It's 1-800-273-8255. And if you are outside of the United States, there is a website called, and here's a click, it's called findahelpline.com. findahelpline.com. You type in your country, and I believe it will give you a digest of places you can refer to seek some help. And I mention that because I'm just such a huge proponent of resources like therapy group, meditation. I've never worked with a life coach, but I'm going to mention that too. Life coaches. And it has been that next to my spiritual practices and me engaging with other people on a spiritual level. Those two things combined have been the formula for making my life feel like I have so much to look forward to. And as I turn 30, I think my intention for the next year and moving forward is to stop putting barricades in my own path that only serve to sabotage my happiness. Whew, I think I just took myself to church with that one. I'm going to say it again. My intention as I turn 30 is to stop placing barricades in my own path that will only serve to sabotage my own happiness. It's easier said than done, but baby steps. We never tell babies, okay, you're 2 now. Get up and walk. No, just go. I'll watch you. You walk. I'm not going to hold your hand. You walk. You should know you were born with 2 legs that are meant to walk. So just get up and walk. No, we help them to walk. We help them balance. We hold their hands. That's how each of us should still be treating ourselves as we struggle with our mental health, our mental well-being, as we figure things out that are really difficult in life. That's how we should treat ourselves. And that's how I want to treat myself a little more. And I want to be kind to myself and let myself feel the bad days. Let myself feel the anger, the sadness, the confusion, the happiness, the joys, the ecstasy. That I want to let myself feel all the things and not beat myself up for it. And not doing that is placing a barricade in my own path. And I know that the more that I appreciate myself, the more that I stop putting those barricades in my path, the more quickly I will be tapping into, or rather, the more easy it will feel to tap into my intuition. As a person who struggles with anxiety, and this is something we talked about, Catherine Allen and I last week, something we talked about was anxiety versus intuition, fear versus intuition. My anxiety, a lot of the times, will cloud my intuition. And, well, more when it's the intuition I work with for my own life decisions. And I have to get real about that. I need to, well, I want to treat myself in a way that will allow my intuition to step in and the anxieties to be at bay. And the last thing I want to say is I'm not a mental health professional, obviously. I am I am not certified in anything related to mental health. And so when I talk about mental health, I say it as someone who has tapped into those resources, into mental health resources myself. And when I say that, I encourage it for everybody. I it's plain as simple as that. I encourage mental health resources for everybody who feels like they could use them or need them. And I recommend and encourage you to do your own research and to refer to your own experts in regards to mental health and your mental well being. But as for me, and with my own, uh, as someone who just is a big proponent for it, but is not a mental health professional, I confidently say that I swear by the mental health resources that I use. And I hope that you feel empowered to do the same in your own life if you feel like you need that too. Whew, that was a lot about turning 30. But new decade, um, I think one other thing that I've mentioned on this podcast, I created a whole podcast episode about it, the fear of mortality, the fear of getting older, especially in such an ageist society we live in, at least in the United States. I feel it's very ageist here and very youth oriented and focused. Something that I also want to work through. And, as I mentioned in that podcast, I still have a little panic attacks every other month about death. Doesn't matter if I talked to someone's grandma last week who passed away 2 years ago, I still have this fear of it. But I feel the work that I'm doing is helping me to accept or be more at peace more and more with mortality and the eternity of things. So more to come on that because that's one department of things I have definitely not totally figured out yet how to be calm about the fact that we are mortal. Oh, why did I say it that way? Mortal? I don't know. Mortal. I feel so fancy. Mortal. Anyways, this clown is going to switch this off in a second. I hope that you felt you could step away from this episode with something to take away, like something to relate to. Maybe this was a little self-indulgent, and if it comes across that way, please know I didn't mean for it to be. I do want to celebrate myself. I've been dreading turning 30 for a year now, and as the date gets closer to turning 30, I feel a little bit more celebratory about it, and I do want to release this episode as a way of celebrating how far I've come in life because I've had quite a few things to feel not great about in life on an emotional level. And I put things in my own path, those barricades that have really caused some ripple effects. And I need to remind myself more often how very far I've come. And as I'm telling you this right now through this microphone, I'm telling myself that because I don't tell myself that often. That's probably the first time I've told myself that in a very long time as I speak it to you now. So this is 30, and I cannot wait for my next year of life, what it brings, the kind of messages I feel empowered to share with you on this podcast, the kind of content I can create on social media that makes me happy. There's not one bit of content that I put up that doesn't make me feel a little joyful. And that's what I want to come through in my social media. I will never put something up that doesn't make me feel joyful or feel like it's important to share, So I'm looking forward to the next year. I love you all very much. I thank you so much for your support. Here's to 30. Insert glass clinking in this moment. Insert glasses. Ding ding. Cheers to 30.